Hi, it's Dr. Odie from Inspired Results, Performance Coaching and Speaking, helping you design a brighter future. This video is about breathing from the diaphragm and why it's important. It's very likely that either you're my patient or you're my coaching client and you want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into what it means to breathe properly. This video is exactly targeting you guys, and I'm here to support you guys in the journey of mastering your breath. So, if you notice children when they're really young, newborns, will breathe from their belly. When they're lying on their back, their belly button will be going up and down. That's how they breathe. In fact, all mammals are designed to breathe this way. If you look at your dog or your cat, you'll notice that they'll be breathing from their belly. Check them out the next time they're sleeping. So belly breathing is important. Why? Well, God, there's a lot of reasons, but let me tell you from a spinal perspective, a spinal health perspective, why it's important. When you breathe from your belly, what you're doing is you're actually exercising and activating one of the core stabilization muscles, which is your diaphragm. Now, the truth is, whether you're breathing from your chest or your diaphragm, your chest or your belly, your diaphragm is going up and down. But when you're a belly breather, the diaphragm is going to be able to descend further. It's going to go further down as it flattens, more so than if you're just breathing from your chest. Now, the back is able to get a rest for just a split second when you breathe out from your belly, the back muscles just get to rest for a second because the stomach and the abdominals in the front and the diaphragm is basically bracing you. If you're breathing into the chest and you're not using your abdomen and therefore not using your diaphragm as much, then the back muscles have to stay engaged for stability. If you notice that when you're doing a front plank, if you go into, you go on your elbows and on your feet, if you're not sure what a front plank is, then look it up. But you're basically going to be face down on the ground and you'll be putting your weight on your elbows and then you're on your toes and you're trying to maintain a certain angle, a certain position. And there's some point where you start to shake. Well, you'll notice that when you breathe in and your belly goes out, you're stable. And then when you exhale and your belly comes back in, you start to shake. Well, that just goes to show that when you're actually breathing, inhaling and expanding the belly section, your abdomen, it creates stability. That's why when someone's doing a deadlift or doing a heavy leg press, they breathe in and they fill their belly, at least they should, instead of their chest, and then they brace as they push or as they lift. Okay, so the most strenuous part of the exercise is where you fill your belly, okay, and then brace. All right, so now, what happens when you breathe from your chest? Well, first of all, when you're breathing from your chest, you're overworking your thoracic, or the area above your lower back. All those bones and all those ribs are overworking in that area. And so what happens is you predispose yourself not only to increase lower back pain, but potentially increase upper back pain or mid back pain. But guess what? You may also increase the risk of neck pain, because when you need to take a deep breath, if you're not breathing from your belly and the breath starts here in your chest, then when you want to take a deep breath, you're going to breathe up here into your neck. And so what that's going to do is overwork your neck as well. Well, look, it doesn't end there. There's also, I believe, an increased risk of being anxious, because the chest and the neck breathing is a sign of stress. And so when you're breathing that way, the subconscious mind may pick up the fact that, hey, there should be something I'm worried about here, when really there's nothing going on. You're just having a coffee with your family, or you're at the mall with your kids. There's really nothing to be anxious about, but for some reason I am. So that's what long-term chest and neck breathing could potentially create. As opposed to breathing from your belly, which is the rest and relaxed breathing, even when you're under stress and maybe have reason to be anxious, maybe your mind is a little bit calmer because, hey, I'm breathing this way and my brain picks up the fact that everything must be okay. There's also a digestive element. I mean, when you breathe from your belly, you're not necessarily turning your potatoes into mashed potatoes, because that happens enzymatically through enzymes and through the body's digestive process. But you're maybe aiding digestion at least, since the diaphragm is coming down and it's pushing, it's putting pressure on the organs. So that is why you want to breathe from your belly and not your chest. Now, I know a lot of people ask me two things. One is, why do we, as human beings, if we're born to breathe from our bellies, why do we breathe from our chest? Like, how did we lose that mammalian adaptation to breathe from our bellies and our, quote, diaphragms? Although, again, you're using your diaphragm either way. Well, there's a lot of reasons for it. And I don't think there's a simple way of explaining it except for me to kind of go through all the possibilities. Number one, overeating and sleeping can do that. Because if you've ever noticed that when you're full of food and you want to take a deep breath into your belly, it's difficult. And so you're naturally going to breathe up into your chest. It can also be caused by putting on weight. So if someone's got a lot of weight around the midsection, again, that, especially combined with overeating, makes it difficult to now breathe into your belly, because the breath is going to take the path of least resistance, which is up here into the chest. Another reason is kind of psycho-emotional, and that is that you're a 10-year-old kid, let's say, and I found this starts at about age 8 to 12. So let's say you're 10 years old and you're at school and you're nervous about something and you're concerned about someone overpowering you or something at school, and so you keep your tummy tight so that you're protecting yourself, because it's the softest part of our body, right? In terms of that's where we're going to likely absorb a blow. And the other reason is the Jane Fonda movement that happened in the 80s. Yes, I'm old enough to know that. And the Jane Fonda movement is basically about keeping your core tight, right? And so it was an exercise movement of, hey, keep your tummy sucked in, not just for aesthetic reasons, but also for core, so you can develop your core muscles in your abdomen. And so it's tougher, it's not impossible, but it's tougher to breathe when you got your tummy sucked in. There's something that in the world of kettlebells, I know that I forget the gentleman's name now, the Russian guy who popularized it in the US. I know that he talks about breathing behind the shield, where when you're carrying kettlebells, for example, or using kettlebells, you want to keep your tummy tight, but you can still breathe behind the shield. So he's encouraging to breathe from the diaphragm, or from the belly, and maximizing that diaphragmatic descent where the diaphragm comes down when you inhale. So that's another reason. I mean, there's many others I could think of too. Like, for example, if a child hugs mom and mom's stressed and anxious, then she's breathing from her chest, and the child has his or her ear or face on mom and feels that the breath is coming there, and then maybe starts mirroring or mimicking that breathing. So those are just a handful. I know that when you go to a doctor and he puts a stethoscope on your chest and says, take a deep breath in, he or she's not saying breathe from your belly. It's almost implied that you should be breathing wherever I put the stethoscope. So it's almost like you follow the breath, like, okay, it's up here, let me breathe here, and it's over here, and breathe over there. So there's all this combined can lead to us as human beings losing the natural adaptation we have, which is to breathe from the belly. Okay? So we know why breathing from the belly is important. We understand now the difference between, breathing from the belly and breathing from the chest. You understand how it potentially started. Now let's talk about how you can actually shift it. So what I want to talk to you first is the let's just say 4 levels of understanding. The fourth one is kind of advanced, but let's throw it in there. The first level of understanding is awareness. You need to just be aware that normal rest and relaxation breathing happens in the belly. And that awareness is going to kickstart your journey into mastering your breath. Okay, so level 1 is being aware of it. Level 2 is being able to do it with focus. So if you try lying on your back, placing one hand over your chest and one hand over your belly, and then take a deep breath in, what you'll find is your belly is going to be going up and down, and there should be little chest movement. When you sit or stand and you have one hand on your belly button and one hand on your chest and you breathe, if you've lost this adaptation, then your upper hand and the breath would be under your chest more. That's what we want to eliminate. So level 2 is doing it with focus. It's saying, okay, I want to lie on my back. I want to take a deep breath in. I want my belly to rise and fall. Okay, I'm going to be seated. I'm going to put my hand over my belly button and I'm going to take a breath in, and my belly button's going to go out and in and out and in, and my chest is not going to move. Can I do that with focus? And then when you stand, the same thing. So that's level 2, which is doing it with focus, doing it with conscious, effort. But you probably can't do it if you don't focus on it. So level 3, as you would imagine, is doing it unconsciously, doing it without having to think about it. So you lie on your back and you breathe, you record yourself and your belly goes up and down and your chest doesn't move. Or you're seated and you record yourself or ask someone to watch you and your belly goes in and out and your chest doesn't move. That's fantastic. Level 4 is doing it while doing complex things. Like you're at the gym and you're doing a leg press and you're able to, the breath is, you're getting the breath proper in and out. Or you're doing a front plank and you're holding it for an extended period of time and the whole time you're breathing from your belly. Or you're doing cardio under a certain heart rate. You're not going too fast, but you're going at a pace that you can at least talk, but it's not difficult to talk. Then of course you should be using your belly, or on a bike, if you're just coasting, you should be using your belly only. Now, I don't want you to think that we shouldn't ever use our chest and neck, because there's times when we need to. When would you need to use your chest and neck? Well, if I picked you up and I threw you in cold water, your breath is going to go right up here. You're going to breathe up into your neck area. Of course, that's the stress breathing. You just got thrown in cold water, for God's sake. So you're going to be naturally you're going to have what's called bronchial dilation. Your lungs are going to expand and need to get oxygen quickly to your muscles and your arms and legs because you're in a stress response. So that's supposed to happen. Okay, number 2 is when you're exercising. Right? If you're doing HIIT training, you're not going to be using just your belly. You need every bit of air that you can get. So you're going to go right up in your neck, just like you were thrown in cold water. If you're going as fast as you can for as long as you can, in that 10-second, 30-second, 1 minute, 1.5 minute period, whatever, you'll be using your neck, your chest, and your belly, all of them. I know when I do butterfly and I come out of the water, I gotta expand every bit so that I can get the air in before I plunge underwater again. Okay? So that's when you're supposed to use all 3 tanks of breathing. The belly will expand, the chest will expand, and the neck will expand. What expands first varies from person to person. Some people expand the belly and chest at the same time. Some expand the belly and then the chest follows. And some kind of do it all together. So you'll just find what's natural for you. So that's the 4th level, where you're breathing, still using proper breathing when you're doing some high intensity things. So you're still able to engage your diaphragm. It doesn't stop. Not your diaphragm, the belly. It's not like you only breathe from your chest and neck. You still engage your tummy. Okay? And these are the 2 times when you should naturally and automatically use your chest and your neck, because number 1, you're thrown in cold water. That's a physical stressor. You're exercising. It's naturally a stressor. If you watch UFC fighters, at the end of a few rounds, you'll see they're using their belly. You'll see they're using their chest and even their neck. And as they start to calm down, the neck breathing will go away, the chest breathing will go away, and they'll be down to just tummy breathing. You can look at athletes like boxers in the corner when they're resting and they're breathing from their tummy. Okay? And the other thing I want to share with you is when you're psychologically / emotionally under stress, if you will, when you're emotional and you're angry, there's also, because you go into the stress response, it's quite natural for you to shift the breathing up into your chest and maybe even into your neck. Okay? So what I want you to start doing, 1, be aware of where you are, detect your weakness. Number 1, understand, hey, I can breathe on my, when I'm on my back, I use my belly, and that's great, but I use my chest. I got to try to eliminate that. You might find that when you're seated, you're using your belly or just your chest. You want to try to bring the breathing away from the chest into your belly. And if you're standing, same thing. All right? You can use a balloon. If you take a full breath in, like right now, just take a deep breath in, fill from the tummy, and expand a balloon. And as you expand it, you realize that this is actually how much air I was able to generate just by using my belly. That's plenty. to get through a day where you're rested and relaxed and not exercising, not thrown in cold water, and not under emotional stress. All you need is that belly breath, just breathing in and out through your belly. Okay? You can also use an inspirometer where it's more of you inhale and the ball goes up and down. You've seen those things. You can also see that, are you using your belly for that? So the inspirometer is where you're, literally breathing in and your belly goes out, and you can see how much air you can generate on the way in. And then you can also, with a balloon, exhale. So fill with your belly first, then exhale, and you'll see how much you just blew up that balloon. That's another way to kind of engage the belly as you breathe. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about the coaching that people seek for this. If you find that you can't do it on your own, so you get level 1, you're aware of why it's important, but you can't seem to, even with focus, do it properly, that's when coaching would come in. A 30-minute session, I'll explain how it works. And if you find that you can do that, but you fail to do it automatically, like when you video yourself when you're sleeping, or when you video yourself when you're seated, and it doesn't happen automatically, you tend to breathe from your chest when you take your mind off the process, then that's a sign as well that you need some support with this and some coaching with this. Now, let me tell you how the coaching works. So in order to shift your breathing from chest and neck down to belly in the relaxed state, I need to provide, there needs to be some negative feedback. So there is some pain involved. Number 2, I'll give you all the negative points first, okay? Number 2 is you will be dizzy during the process because I get you to breathe quick. All right? And number 3, it's ideal if you do this that you come in either fasted or on a very light stomach. I'm talking liquids and solids. You don't want to be full, because to master your breathing, I need to push on your tummy. And by doing that, it can be uncomfortable if it's full, which makes sense, right? So here's the way it works. When you breathe improperly, so when you breathe from your chest, I'll stimulate a point in your body around the sternum, around the chest bone, or there's other areas too, but I'll stimulate a point that's sensitive so that I'm giving you negative feedback when you breathe improperly. And when you breathe properly, I'll actually create dizziness in there because I'll get you to breathe really quick from your stomach. So this dizzy feeling is kind of a good feeling. So what I'm doing is I'm creating positive feedback when you breathe right and negative feedback when you breathe from your chest and improperly. So that's how I kind of reprogram. That's kind of how I instill and install a new mindset and a new program for breathing. How many sessions do you need to do? I don't usually recommend it until you do one. Like, just do one breathing session. And if you find that it's really shifted things for you, you may walk out making that breathing automatic. You may walk out breathing better, but still, you got to still do some homework. But I usually just start with one session, then we take it from there. All right. Hope you found this video helpful. I know I covered a lot of material. So please, if there's any comments, go ahead. If you need some one-to-one work, please reach out. And please go to my website and check out my assessment. It's a health and performance assessment. Breathing is one of the questions, one of the sections that I ask you questions on, and see how you do, because it'll help you find your weakest link. It's right on the homepage of my website, drodi.com, and just click what's your weakest link. And what else can I say except thank you so much for watching, and hope I made an impact in your life. Take care.